Welcome to John Martin Talks, where we battle ignorance and apathy daily. The growing ignorance of just how special this experiment we call the United States of America is, and the apathy that we can't or won't do anything and everything to save her. Well, ladies and gentlemen, the word of the day is optimism. And the definition I chose for it is the belief that good must ultimately prevail over evil in the universe. And we got a series of stories that hopefully will drive that point home. But before we get too deep into it, I got to do a little bit back on the word of yesterday. Of course, yesterday's word was celebrate or celebration. And I don't know about you, but I've been partying like it's 1999 in the Trump world, man. We've been doing it all. And I watched today, because as I tell you many times, I do one of my public services to you is to watch certain types of shows and read certain types of news articles. So quite frankly, you don't have to. And I took one for the team today, and I watched about 45 minutes of Morning Joe on MSNBC today because I wanted to get their reaction to the Mueller report and the no collusion. And let me tell you, man, I was not disappointed because the show basically started out with Joe Schmo Scarborough. You know, I affectionately call him old Pussy Whip Joe because, man, he has been that boy. He's an old Florida cracker, man. He's like me. He comes from a part even more rural Florida, more like southern, state Florida in the Panhandle. But I can tell you right now, it's a good thing. I think both his parents are dead, and I don't wish that on him, but it's probably a good thing they are, because I don't think they'd recognize their boy. I don't think they'd recognize old Redneck Joe. He haven't even referred to himself that way in this particular rant, because, man, he is not the conservative panhandle guy that he was, because he grew up in the panhandle, the part of the country, the part of the state of Florida that went overwhelmingly for Trump and pushed him over the top. That's where Joe Schmo is from, man. And when he wasn't living there, I think he was living shared time between Alabama and Mississippi. But New York, man, that has really changed. He went the opposite of Green Acres, by the way. Look at that poofed up hair, man. I mean, he is like metrosexual, and he has just been beat down. He's
got the smallest eyes I've ever seen.
Yeah, well, I don't know about all that. I don't know about his hands or his eyes. But Mika must know. She must know, because she got that boy whipped down. I mean, I have this image every time I think of him, tied up in the basement, her wearing these black leather tights, I gotta say it, and the big whip with him wearing one of them old pussy hats on his head, and her just going, papaya, papaya, and whipping that boy down. But man, Joe, I think he did a good job of speaking for all the media that are melting down, because he gave what David Ignatius said, who is the one of the editors of the Washington Post and a frequent guest on that show, and I'll tell you more about him in a minute. But he did say, after Joe went through his about 10-minute rant, that finally someone gave a full-throated defense of the press, because Joe Scarborough just basically went on and defended the liars. And his essential premise of it was that President Trump, is such a liar that the media had no choice but to lie. I mean, that's pretty much what he said. And I'm like, wow. So this David Ignatius kind of really, like I say, he is the one of the editors, senior editor at the Washington Post. And he said something that really resonated with me, because I think it explains not only the media meltdown, but why they had the fake news to start with. Because he, in defense of the Washington Post and media people in general, he literally said that that we, being journalists like him, had to unthread the Trump presidency. Yes, that was his term, unthread. And I thought about that, and to me, unthread sounds a lot like unravel, right? Because when you pull like a string on a sweater, you keep pulling it, sooner or later the whole sweater is gone. Well, that's exactly what, I take him at his word. Let me back up and say this. These progressives, it's always been this way, but really been exposed by President Trump. They have been emboldened to the point that you don't have to guess where they're coming from. They will tell you, if you'll take the time to actually listen to them, they will tell you exactly what they think and what they want to do and what their plans are. So this idea that David Ignatius espoused on Morning Schmo today, where they had a duty to unthread the presidency of Donald Trump, if you just kind of stretch that out a little bit to unravel, that is exactly what the whole Mueller investigation was supposed to do. It was supposed to unravel, unthread, takedown. As the president said, it was an illegal takedown attempt that failed. That's what it was supposed to be. And the fact that it is not, and the fact that the media has spent, thousands and thousands of hours and articles basically saying that this narrative of the Trump collusion with Russia and the fact that it's no longer true, they're just unhinged. I started to play the video of this, but I'll just tell you about it real quick. You can check it out. There's Chris Cuomo, right? Isn't that his name? Chris, Mario's little brother, who, America never was great, but their family is the exact opposite of that. Proves how great America is, the Cuomo story. Whether you like them or not, they are an American success story. But Cuomo, Chris, the younger brother on CNN, had Rudy Giuliani on, and he was asking Rudy about various questions about the Mueller report, and Rudy flat out said to him, well, first, before we get talking, he said, are you going to apologize? Are we going to get an apology for all the basic, and I'm paraphrasing, all the basic lies and bullshit you've been saying for the last couple of years? And Cuomo insisted, he said, never, never. And Rudy went back to it a couple times during the interview. He said, well, would you apologize for this? And Cuomo just seriously, never, never. And they never will. So if you're expecting that, you're not going to get it. Now, like I said yesterday, I'm with you as far as we need to investigate the Hildebeest and all that uranium one and even Obama's presidency. Because keep in mind, to whatever there was Russian interference in our 2016 election, and they've been trying to do that for a long time, it all happened under Obama's presidency and under Obama's secret, his intelligence officials and his Department of Justice. So Trump really, not only has he been truly exonerated, contrary to what they're saying, but Trump wasn't responsible for the interference of the Russians into the election either. And he might be now as president if they're doing it, but Obama was clearly the one. So I'm with you as far as trying to investigate all this stuff, but I will tell you this, in my opinionated fact, we don't have any control over that. We, the American people, we're not going to be able to control these swamp rats. We never have been able to. That's why we got to get rid of them. That's why we put President Trump in there, right? But there's one thing that we have control over, and that is the power of the vote. The power to punish these people, to punish the media by not buying their crap. I'll listen to it for you. We need to do away with our cables and stuff like that. Quit supporting CNN and MSNBC and probably even Fox News, because I got to say, they're kind of making some left turns that I don't agree with. Maybe we'll talk about that more in depth on another day. But we, the voters, we, the American people, not just the dregs and deplorables, because I think we're re-energized now and all on board. But if you have an open mind, if you care about this nation, then you need to punish those people who have put us through this witch hunt, this pile of crap for the last 2 years. We deserve better than this, and we need to demand better than this, and we need to vote these rascals out. Period. That's the one thing we can control, and I'm going to be driving that home really over the next 2 years, so get used to it. All right. Back to the stories at hand, Billy Bob tells me. If you haven't tuned into our show before, and I ran into a guy yesterday that has watched the show, and he said, I've watched the show a little bit, but I don't understand the fish. Well, this is my psychic sidekick, Billy Bob Bass. He don't talk much. He Twitter twats a lot. He has a Twitter handle at Billy Bob Bass 1, and he's a little more out there than even I am, and that's saying something. My Twitter handle, by the way, is at John Martin Talks. And you can see, and if you're just tuning in the show and you want to watch the previous shows we've done and kind of catch up, then go directly to our Facebook page. There's several ways to do it. Go directly to our Facebook page, John Martin Talks, like it, and share it with other people. That is something we really need you to do. You can also go to johnmartintalks.tv, see all of our podcasts there. And those of you who like YouTube, you can check us out there, John Martin Talks on YouTube. And we're going to be rebuilding that site and improving it. More yet to be revealed. But back to the word of the day, just to recapture it, it's optimism. The belief that belief that good must ultimately prevail over evil in the universe. And we have some stories that tell you that. Because the first thing about optimism I want to talk about is this story. And it's going to be coming to you from the Los Angeles Times. Because like we were celebrating yesterday, man, this is good, right? And so I'm thinking, just when you think it can't get any better, it does. It does, man. It's all about Avenatti. Lawyer Michael Avenatti arrested, faces wire fraud and bank fraud charges according to the LA Times. Los Angeles attorney Michael Avenatti, in the case that name doesn't ring a bell, that's Stormy Daniels' attorney, or at least he was. She actually fired him. She apprenticed that dude. You're fired. But Los Angeles attorney Michael Avenatti has been arrested and charged with financial crimes by federal law enforcement officials in separate cases in Los Angeles and New York. He's coast to coast, man. Authorities said on Monday. Now, keep in mind, this is the man who would be president. Now, he did one of the best, I've been chastising those people that get press conferences saying, I'm here to announce today that I'm not running for president. Man, you got to have an ego a mile wide to do that. And, of course, Avenatti fits that bill. But he gave one of the better, I'm not running for president. He said he's basically not running for president for the good of the nation because he don't want to be a distraction. I mean, that's what got me. As somebody will say, I'm doing this so I can. He has to said, basically, if you go back and look at it, he essentially said, I got caught with my hand, and in this case, he got caught with his hands on a woman. We didn't know all of what he's doing, but, it's not that unpredictable, that's for sure. But this man would be president. Keep in mind, as we go through this, the Democrats were touting this dude as a real deal candidate. He was polling among some Democrats fairly high. CNN made this guy like the poster child for their network for a while. And Democrats were so enamored with this dude that right the day that he announced he wasn't running for president, he had to cancel an official fundraiser for the Democratic Party of, I think, New Hampshire, in New Hampshire. I mean, this guy was centerpiece for the Democratic Party. And I got to tell you, the first time I ever heard this dude speak and saw him, I knew he was a douchebag, dirtbag, shyster lawyer. He didn't have to say hardly 2 words. I was like, shyster, man. There was never a doubt in my mind. Back to the article. In Southern California, federal prosecutors accuse Avenatti of misusing $1.6 million in funds earmarked for a client settlement to cover expenses for his coffee business. I didn't even know he had a coffee business. Global Baristas US LLC, which operated Tully's coffee stores in California and Washington State, I guess I hadn't been out there in a while, and as well as his own expenses, the statement said. So I'm thinking, man, I thought I knew about Starbucks expensive coffee, but this dude's spending $1.6 million, don't want to give him too much credit, of other people's money on coffee. I mean, so, maybe there's still a political future for this dude because there's another coffee man out there that's threatening to jump in the race as an independent, he says, and that's old Howard Schultz, the CEO or former CEO of Starbucks. So maybe old Schultz can get together with Avenatti, man, and they can come up with something because think about it. Here's a couple of, first of all, Schultz, I got to give that man credit. That man deserves an award. Because if you can convince people to pay $8 for a 50-cent cup of coffee, and just line up. Think about, man, I have never gotten Starbucks. I got to admit it. I'm not not a fan of them. It's not. I mean, their coffee's fine, but I've never understood I'm telling you, I don't mean to advertise, but like 7-Eleven's coffee is just, I hate to tell you, and maybe they should be paying me to say this, but like 7-Eleven, and now we got Wawa's in the South. I think they're a northern entity, but they're coming to a neighborhood near me now. I mean, their convenience store coffee is as good as Starbucks, and it's like $1. But Starbucks can convince you to pay at the time for a 50-cent cup of coffee. They convince you to pay it $8, man, and line up for it. I remember the first time I really noticed this was in an airport. There was a Starbucks. This was quite a few years ago, and I counted. There was literally 45 people in a single file line to get into Starbucks, waiting on it to open.
It's the drugs, man.
Yeah, it's those drugs, right? It's the pricks for pricks. I forgot about that. Pricks for pricks, man. If you don't know what I'm talking about, you can go back and look at my podcast. But the biggest thing that Starbucks is worried about now is that their employees are getting pricked by needles because of their open bathroom policy, letting people in. And in places like Philadelphia, Starbucks, I don't know how much the people are noted for their coffee, but they're noted as a great place to go shoot up. So it's a smackdown, so to speak. But anyway, so Schultz comes up with 50-cent coffee for $8. Well, Avenatti, man, he got the keys. This guy got Stormy Daniels, who's basically just a pole dancing hooker. He got her the keys to the city of Hollywood. So I mean, this dude is pretty. I mean, that's impressive. Think about that. That's impressive. No question about it. He helped put her on the map to a certain extent. So maybe there's, these two coffee gurus could get together and they could run for president, man. I mean, they could run on the you'll believe any bullshit ticket. Hey, that'd probably do as good as what these Democrats are trying to sell us. But Avenatti, 48, is separately accused of fraudulently obtaining more than $4 million in loans from a Mississippi bank in 2014. I'm surprised this dude had the guts to show up in Mississippi, but that's another story. I probably did it all online by submitting false tax returns. Oh my God, false tax returns that showed he had raked in millions in profits from 2011 to 2013, according to a criminal complaint filed in Los Angeles. In reality, if true, Avenatti had not submitted a personal tax return with the Internal Revenue Service in any of those years, according to the filing. So CNN, you're all about, we need to see the tax returns, and all that. But yet you put this guy, probably paid him a few million to put him as the face of your network when he ain't even paid any tax. I mean, they talk about, we need to see Trump's tax returns. Well, apparently Avenatti don't even have any tax returns. It's just crazy. And the Democrats were really considering putting this guy up as part on the debate stage. He would have this not come out, all this crap, this guy, make no mistake, would have been on the debate stage at the first Democratic debate. I don't know how he got there. Maybe he got his gold-plated jackass. But this guy would have been there, and they wouldn't have cared two whatevers for his tax returns because he didn't even have any. I mean, give me a break, man. It's crazy.
He's the perfect example.
Yeah.
He should have ran.
He should. He'd make the perfect president for them. Prosecutors in Manhattan also accused the attorney of attempting to extract more than $20 million. This is what they just happened literally a couple of days ago. $20 million in payments from a publicly traded company. That company is Nike, by the way, by threatening them to use his ability to garner publicity. Now, this is already after he'd left the scene. He's still saying this guy's got some truck nuts. You got to give him credit for that. I don't know if he's got any real ones, but he's got some truck nuts because he's going to say, I can garner publicity after he'd already been exposed as a fraud in the Kavanaugh case as a potentially domestic violence, which is the reason he supposedly dropped out of the Me Too movement of the Democratic Party and running for 2020. And, of course, Stormy Daniels went all Donald Trump on him by saying, you're fired. I mean, she channeled Donald Trump. She must have learned that from him in some form or fashion. What do you think? I don't know. She probably kept
Trump
saying,
tips 101.
Yeah, kept saying, oh, Donnie, man, tell me I'm fired. Tell me I'm fired. See, I'm not even worried about all that stuff because I knew who Donald Trump was. He isn't, he's not an altar boy. He never was. This idea that all of a sudden we unwittingly supported Donald Trump, we didn't know who he was. We knew who Donald Trump was. We knew that he knew all the rats, and he knew how to expose them, shine the light on them rats, and drain the swamp. And that's exactly what he's been doing. We never had any, at least I know, I shouldn't say we in a sense, but I know a lot of people feel like me. We knew who Trump was. He's not perfect, but he's the perfect man for this point in history. There is no doubt about it, man. And it's just been even more shown in the last. I mean, this guy, who could have stood up to the nonsense that Donald Trump has had to face, man? You really believe that Hillary Clinton, who couldn't eat, he's president of California, I'll give her that, but she couldn't even face her own supporters on election night. Couldn't face them. She couldn't hold Donald Trump's jockstrap, man. I'm sure she'd like to, maybe, but she ain't no. Bill might too, who knows? But there ain't no way they could. There's no one else on the planet that could have been through all the nonsense that Donald Trump has had to go through and still be standing tall. Period. So even if you hate Donald Trump, if you're honest, you got to admire that, man, because no one else could have done it. There's just no one that could have. But anyway, he tried to be a shyster with Nike. So what he did. I'll tell you exactly what he did in a minute. But I can tell you why he was attracted to Nike. Because apparently Nike got money to burn, right? I mean, if Nike can pay millions and millions of dollars to Colin Kaepernick, man, I mean, he probably looked at it and says, hey, I'm just as anti-American as that kneeler Colin Kaepernick, so maybe he probably should have just went to Nike instead of trying to, scam them for money. He should have just went to him and said, hey, let's do a commercial, because he's got as much, integrity to do a commercial as the kneeler Colin Kaepernick. So to me, they would have went hand in hand. But Avenatti, this is what he tried to do to Nike, man. This guy. He might have a set of truck nuts, but he ain't the sharpest tool in the box, that's for sure. Avenatti approached Nike earlier this month regarding alleged evidence brought by an AAU basketball coach in California, claiming that Nike officials were paying families to top high school basketball players, according to the complaint. It's interesting. California, man, what's up with you Californians out there, you the Hollywood elite and all this bunch that you just got to pay your way through? I mean, I wasn't going to talk about it this way, but it just popped in my head, so I got to get it out because it'll rattle around in there. California, man, used to really be the jewel of the country. It's one of the greatest places in the world. And the people that had the fortitude, the 49ers as they call them, to go out there and face all they faced and build that state, man. I'm sure there was a lot of people like me. You just looked at California in awe. What the heck happened? Now these people have to buy their way. They can't do anything on merit. And I'm not talking about all you Californians. I realize there's a lot of great people out there, a lot of great conservatives in California. I wish you'd elect another Ronald Reagan as your governor, but maybe it's asking too much. But the thing is, the people that are running the show out there, man, they are rotten to the core, and they don't even believe in their own kids. They got to pay off all that stuff. To me, it's just crazy. But Avenatti threatened to hold a news conference. He's going to hold a news conference if Nike didn't pay the client, he said, this AAU person, Avenatti, to conduct an internal investigation, the company court records show. And think about this. Nike is paying high school players. Wow, there's breaking news. Not. Federal investigators recorded a call between Avenatti and two attorneys representing Nike on Friday, during which Avenatti threatened to take $10 billion off Nike's cap holding the news conference if it wasn't paid. Think about that. First of all, there ain't no way he was going to do it. If the Colin Kaepernick thing, Nike hiring the kneeler, didn't take billions of dollars off their cap, in fact, improve their bottom line. If the kneeler didn't do it, the squealer here wasn't going to do it. So I don't know what the hell he was thinking about.
They should have had this up there. They should have President Trump.
Yeah, there you go. Maybe they'll do a Nike ad right now, about the new, he's been exonerated. I don't know how you want to put that. But really and truly, I got to thinking about it. And there's a part of me, it's a small one. It's really small. But there's a part of me that kind of feels sorry for old Avenatti. Think about it. This guy is a victim. If anybody needs to be on Dr. Phil and talk about victimization, it's Avenatti. Because he's clearly the victim of not only his own ego, but of Trump derangement syndrome. He is. He is. And I'm thinking about starting some type of foundation, maybe a GoFundMe page. Because really, for 19 cents a day, couldn't you help this couple right here? You know, if you keep them, because do you really want to see a couple of bloated bellies, Avenatti and Stormy Daniels and the like, and all these never Trumpers and people like that, Morning Joe? Do you really want to see them with like bloated bellies and flies around their mouth because they've lied so much that they can't hold a job? Of course, there'll always be jobs for these guys. I wouldn't be surprised if he's not rehired by CNN or MSNBC after it's all said. But here's what Avenatti said, man. This guy's something else. He said, you guys know enough now to know you've got a serious problem, talking about Nike. You know, this is what he was telling them during this recording. He says, and this conversation, according to a complaint, just before he was arrested Monday morning, Avenatti tweeted he'd been holding the news conference about Nike. He would be holding a news conference about Nike, alleging criminal conduct in college basketball in Los Angeles on Tuesday morning. So he says to Nike, you got a problem. Well, let me tell you, Mr. Nike, Mr. Avenatti, you know, I know a guy that might have a problem. We talked about him a little bit yesterday on the show, Ben Dover. Now, he's a guy, he might have a problem because I talked about, you know, how he's ready for little Mikey Cohen. I don't know if Ben is capable of handling two Mikeys, but let's check it out and see if he might.
Take your pants off.
I don't even know your name.
Bend over.
Ben, nice to meet you. Victor Hugo. You wouldn't happen to have a middle name, would you?
You know me. So old Mikey Cohen, like I said yesterday, I don't know who Trump's going to pardon. Might pardon some, but I know who he's not. He ain't pardoning old Mikey Cohen, and Avenatti ain't getting one neither. So the guy that's really got a choice, a decision to make, and he's probably pretty optimistic right now, is old Ben Dover. You know, he may have to share it with the tossed salad man. But I think old Randall Tex Cobb bend over in that show, and I mean all respect to Mr. Cobb. He was a heck of a boxer and a pretty good actor in his own right and these things. But I think he can handle two Mikeys. Shyster to shyster. Shyster on the left, shyster on the right, and I'm stuck in the middle with you. Man, some of us are sicker than others, I tell you. But Stormy Daniels had a comment about this. She is no longer a client of Avenatti's. She said on Monday that she's saddened but not shocked. She's not shocked by the news of the criminal charges. She said, this is what Stormy said. She said, I made the decision more than a month ago to terminate Michael's services after discovering he had dealt with me extremely dishonestly, and therefore there will be more announcements to come. And what she did say is not to mention that I now owe the Donald $300K because of you, sir. I mean, no wonder I would be pissed off that I'd have fired him too. If you went from getting 130 grand, if you'd have just kept your mouth shut, to taking this guy's advice, and now you owe the president, the player of all players, we have discovered, by the way, because when the hookers are paying you, my God, man, that is, I mean, think about if you were a rapper. I mean, it used to be just you wanted to get shot so you could, you know, get a #1 record. But hey, if you can get the hookers to pay you, man, you are going to the top. And so Donald Trump, man, he is a player's player. No wonder some of these rappers like him, they want to be like the Donald, man. But the arrest announced Monday marked a precipitous fall even by today's whirlwind standards. 8 months ago, Avenatti was exploring a run for 2020 presidential nomination, drawing large crowds and favorable reviews from Trump-loathing partisans. So the fact that I was loathing this guy, I mean, I don't think I loathe the guy. I just took one look at him and went, I know what that is, shyster.
Now he's going to be exploring the corner of a cell.
Yeah, I mean, he's going to be meeting the tossed salad man, and he'll say, Mikey, and I can see right now, bend over, go, wait over there, boy, I'll be with you in a moment. Right now, I got the other Mike. It depends on which one of them goes to jail first, I don't know, did anybody get to you? I don't know if you know that's a movie reference as well. But like I said, the first time I saw this dude, man, I knew he was a shyster. I mean, I just knew it. Let me ask you this. Does CNN owe us an apology for putting this guy up every day, night after night after night? Does the Democratic Party owe the nation and the Democrats, their members of their party, apology for elevating this guy, for literally having them be fundraiser for them? For good and well, there is no doubt. They're all distanced themselves, by the way, now. But he was front and center. Oh, he was credible during Kavanaugh hearing, right? I mean, this was like the savior. Avenatti to the rescue. And what we found out is that what we got to have is Captain Whitebread to the rescue, because I've been telling you this guy was a shyster from day one, man. So, hey, say hello to Ben for me, buddy.
Michael Avenatti has appeared on CNN and MSNBC 108 times. 108
times. So, to channel Giuliani, man.
Since March 7th.
Yeah. Should you apologize? Never what Como would say, right? So they're not going to apologize for it. They just pile on the nonsense. We got to get back. We got to get past that now. We got to move on. All right. So I'm kind of optimistic about this next story because it tells me that the planet might not be dead just yet. It kind of reminds me of Monty Python. Right?
It's the end of the world.
That's all right. I could use a good dance.
You shall not have died in vain.
I'm not quite dead, sir.
I still love Monty Python, man. I'm not quite dead, sir. In fact, I think I might make it. So the planet, man, is channeling Monty Python. It's saying it might make it. And this is a story coming to you from the AP. Key Greenland glacier growing again after shrinking for years, NASA study shows. So this glacier is growing. I thought they were melting, but they're growing. One of the biggest ones on the planet is growing. And you'll be interested to find out why. A major Greenland glacier that was one of the fastest shrinking ice and snow masses on Earth is growing again, a new NASA study finds. So this is not Trump's NASA, it's just NASA. It's not part of Space Force. It's those scientists. You're going to believe in science. Well, you know who I do believe? I actually believe in NASA. I'm a big fan of NASA overall. Are they perfect? No. They got human beings in them, right? Probably less than perfect. But NASA, man, I mean, where would we be without it, right? NASA's our future. Space Force, baby. Isn't it going to be, you talk about pessimism and optimism, isn't it going to really depress these snowflakes when they realize, 100 years from now, if they're still alive by machines, that Donald Trump started the Federation of Planets with Space Force? Think about that. Donald Trump, man, is the original Captain Kirk, baby. There ain't no doubt about it, man. He is going to be responsible for starting the Federation of Planets. Mark my word, they will be pulling up these videos 200, 150, 200, 300 years from now and saying, JMT was right. He predicted the rise of the Federation through Donald J. Trump. But this study, I want to give you a joke, man, that I think kind of tells us. It's like, have you heard this joke before? The pessimist said, man, it can't get any worse than this. And the optimist said, oh, yes, it can. Think about that one for a while. But wow, man, think about in the last couple of days what has happened. Miracles are happening all around us. First of all, we've had couple of days of just MAGA redemption, man. MAGA redemption, brother. You can go out now and wear your MAGA hat, and they can say something. You can go, hey, stick it where the sun don't shine. Exonerated. You know how what's her name, Maxine Warren, impeach 45, impeach 45. Well, we can just chant, exonerated, exonerated. You know, we just throw it right back at them, man. Put your hat on, and they look at you and go, why are you wearing that? You don't have to say anything other than, exonerated, exonerated. Hey, use it if you want to. I don't need any royalties on it, not yet. But we've had the MAGA. Think about that, man. We've had MAGA redemption the last couple of days, man. Here you go, man. There you go. Think about it, man. This one here, Make America Great Again. MAGA, baby. Exonerated. Exonerated. That's all we got to say, right? And then on top of the exoneration of President Trump, as big as that is, as optimistic as I am that that's like the story of the year, it turns out right here, there's an even bigger story than Donald Trump. The planet is saved. All in the last 2 days, we got world reprieve. We're going to be, we might last longer than 12 years. Might. I don't know. Ocasio-Cortez. I haven't heard much from her, have we? I mean, it's funny how she hasn't had much to say lately. That's interesting in itself. But back to this study, because this is a real study. I'm making fun of it, but I'm happy about it to a certain extent, man. Let me say this right. The Jacobushaven, that's the name of the glacier. Why they got to name it? Glacier 2 or something. Anyway, the glacier around 2012 was retreating about 1.8 miles or 3 kilometers every year, and thinning nearly 130 meters, almost 40 meters annually. But it started growing again about the same rate in the past 2 years, according to a study in Monday's Nature Geoscience. So it went from the fastest melting to the fastest growing. Man, optimism. Think about this. Optimism. I'm optimistic for the snowflakes, because between MAGA redemption and the world reprieve, the snowflakes, man, they might just get melted by the light of truth, baby. But they're refreezing. Is that what it is?
They're refreezing.
We got the heat. They're getting it from both ends. They're freezing on one end and feeling the heat on the other, baby. Study authors. Now, in fairness, study authors and outside scientists think this is temporary. And this is where it gets pessimistic, right? They're optimistic that it's temporarily, because if think about it, because they hope that it's temporary. This is what's so sick, and I'm not talking about these individual people of NASA, but the people that are reading this that might accept the science of, they hope it's temporary because it doesn't fit the dadgum narrative. It doesn't fit the narrative. So if it turns out to be permanent, then it would really be a problem, man. It would really be a problem. So only these hardcore leftists can put a pessimistic spin on something they've been praying for. They don't pray, do they? I guess it's hard to describe. They got all these descriptions. It's like all these he, she, it, theys, and all that. It's hard to describe what they do sometimes, because you can't say they're praying on it, because they don't pray. Or have faith. They don't have any. I mean, so, it's hard to do. But this Geological Survey of Denmark ice and climate scientist Jason Box, I guess he's saying thinking outside the box, right? This was kind of a surprise. We kind of got used to a runaway system, so we got used to the narrative. It's melting, it's melting. But let me tell you, old Gaia, man, old Gaia, how do you say that? The planet Earth, the kind of, is it Gaia, Gaia. The hippie way of saying it, man. I've laid off the drugs, so it's hard for me to get these terms right anymore. But Gaia surprises, is that right? Is it Gaia? Gaia, okay. Just trying to get it right.
Like Guy with an A.
Like Guy with an A. Is that one of the 65 genders?
The Earth identifies
like guy
as
with
a
an
Gaia.
A. He's a guy with an A. Gaia. I mean, it probably is, right? It probably is. But Gaia surprises us all the time, man. Think about, I always get a kick out of this, and we should have probably got some footage. Maybe we'll do it another day. But do you remember back when the volcano first started erupting again in Hawaii, on the big island of Hawaii? They literally had reporters out there saying, this could last for weeks. I'm thinking, dude, it could last for a millennia. I mean, this volcano is like, a passing thunderstorm, man. Volcanoes don't run by the same clock we do. I hate to tell you that. They're on a whole different geological time. And he's like, this volcano could erupt for weeks. It could erupt for 10,000 years, brother. I mean, it's just incredible how they think, man.
Only a lib could hear, oh my God, the world is getting better. Wait, it's Trump. Ah!
That damn Trump, man. That MAGA hat wearing sons of guns, man. They are saving the planet. Think about it. We have saved the planet, man, because, old white bread, they saved the planet. But I'll give you a great example. And now, I'm not saying this with any joy, but it's just fact. The white man basically is responsible for the damn near the extinction of the buffalo, right? I mean, let's face it, it was old white dudes, probably looked a lot like me out there going, papaya, papaya. I'm not shooting no bow and arrow or jumping off a horse. I'm going to shoot them with my carbine, and they just shot him, okay? Now, and first of all, that's tragic, right? But if you believe in Ocasio-Cortez, it's optimism. It's great news. Thank God for them. And the reason I say that is because apparently, about USDA says right now in America, we have approximately 94 million farting cows in America right now. That's a lot of gas, brother. But we got 94 million cows. Coincidentally, that's about the same number, roughly, they think that the buffalo population was in like 1700. Before they really started hunting them all. So think about it. If the old nasty white dude hadn't have shot the buffalo, we'd have 200 million farting bovine in this country right now, and the world would end as we know it. So thank God that they killed all the buffalo to make room for these farting cows, man.
It's the end of the world as we know it.
Hey, I'm not for any extent. Just so you don't get all bent out of shape and put me on some of these poster things or whatever, I am actually not for eliminating the buffalo or the farting cows for that matter. I am all pro bovine. Believe me, man.
You're part of PETA?
I don't
People
know.
for
Man.
the eating of tasty animals?
PETA, man, attacked me for the pig chase. Ward Scott teases me about it all the time, but when I was mayor of the great city of Hawthorne, Florida, we had a pig chase, and PETA, actually, the president of PETA, wrote me a letter saying you should cease and desist from pig chases. And CNN actually came and interviewed me about that and said, what do you think about eliminating the pig chase? And I said, well, I was right on CNN. I said, well, I'm kind of hoping if they do that they bring a watermelon chase, because I believe I could probably catch one of them. I can't, but my days of catching pigs is not too good anymore. But the good news is, this, according to this report, this same Mr. Jason Box, this climate scientist, he said the good news is that it's a reminder that it's not necessarily going that fast, but it's going. But the report says it's growing. So, who believes in science? We've heard this before, right? Haven't we heard this kind of thinking before? The like circular logic, I hope I'm using that term right, of the progressive left and the leftists in this country. I mean, we just heard, and I played it, I think, yesterday, Maxine Waters, when asked about the Mueller report, she literally said on Joy Reid, there's a beacon of truth for you, she said on Joy Reid's show that Trump has been going around saying there's no collusion, there's no collusion. And Joy Reid said, yeah, but the report said there is no collusion. Yeah, but he's been putting that in people's heads that there's no collusion, no collusion. But we need to still investigate more. So, translation, Trump's been going around saying the truth, but the truth is setting him free, and we can't let that be. I mean, so it's just the logic of these people. It's like you can feel the disappointment that this glacier is actually growing and the planet might survive. You can feel their disappointment, man.
What logic?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. What logic? I mean, pretzel logic, I guess. Huh? But what's causing the growth? You might ask yourself, what is causing the growth? So, I'm about to tell you. Hang on. I want you on my side of the wall. I'm going to tell you what's causing the growth right now. The lead study, the author of the study, the lead author, Ala Kazander, a NASA glaciologist. I didn't know there was a glaciologist. He says that a natural cyclical cooling of North Atlantic waters likely caused the glacier to reverse course. Say what? A natural cooling. I mean, I thought we were naturally getting hot or unnaturally getting hot. I mean, this stuff, he said it's a natural cyclical. I hate to break it to you snowflakes out there, but the earth is cyclical. It goes through cycles. The last ice age started ending this current ice age, where I guess we're at the end of it, 300,000 years ago. And I hate to tell you this, but thank God the ice age ended, because guess what? You wouldn't be here if it wasn't for the end of the ice age. If we had glaciers growing again all across the world, it could be the end of the world as we know it. So, I mean, be careful what you wish for. But the water in Disco Bay, that's the bay that surrounds this glacier, where is about 3.6 degrees cooler, 2 degrees Celsius, than a few years ago, the study finds. So the ocean is actually in this area getting cooler. I mean, what is it? I don't know. If true, if it's an if true moment, then I'm feeling optimistic about the jackasses. You know, these jackasses may not be burdened as much with having to be ridden by the Democratic jackasses, because if the world is truly coming to an end, according to Ocasio-Cortez and her New Green Deal, or Green New Deal, whatever, same old stuff, then the jackasses, the Democratic Party is going to have to campaign on the back of jackasses, right? Or be called hypocrites. I don't think they would care, but I'm now feeling a bit optimistic about the jackasses. So the report goes on to say, while this is good news on a temporary basis, they just can't stand good news. It's bad news on the long term, because it tells scientists that ocean temperature is a bigger player in glacial retreats and advances than previously thought. I'm no scientist, and I could have told you that, said NASA climate scientist Josh Willis, a study co-author. Over the decades, the water has been and will be warming from man-made climate change, he said, noting that about 90% of the heat trapped in the greenhouse gases goes into the ocean. Damn it, man. Back on the jackasses, I guess. I mean, I was just feeling good, man. And they had to blow it for me to tell me,
we keep you alive to serve this ship. So row well and live.
I tell you what, man, we're going to be rowing around these dadgum growing glaciers. It's going to be tough, man. All right, we're going to move on to another story here. And it gives me some optimism as well. Because I've always been one thing I've always been optimistic about is the power of the Yankee dollar, man. I can't get enough of them. I can't get enough of them. And apparently neither can the Venezuelans. It kind of, saying I've always told you, money might not buy you happiness, but it makes misery a hell of a lot more tolerable. I can guarantee you that. And so this story is coming to you from the Wall Street Journal. Venezuela's two realities, people with dollars and those without. That is definitely a different reality, man. I can tell you, I can relate to this story. Caracas, Venezuela. Venezuela is run by anti-American socialist government, but the country increasingly relies on a potent symbol of American capitalism, the U.S. dollar. But I thought we sucked, man. I thought America sucked, that no one should live here, that we were really the true S-hole country, although they're lining up to get here. And I thought capitalism, man, is dead. It's outdated. Didn't Ocasio-Cortez say capitalism's outdated? It's outlived this thing. But it's funny that all these socialist places, what they want is the Yankee dollar, man. That's what they want. They don't want their own country's money. They don't want the picture of their smiling dictators. They want George Washington. And they especially want Ben Franklin. I can tell you that right now, man. Everybody talks about dead presidents. But give me them inventors, baby. I'm an inventor. I like to collect all of them I can. The trend is sparking a growing inequity between Venezuelans with dollars and those stuck in increasingly worthless local currency, the bolivar. So this is big news, man. I mean, you're getting a hell of an education here, man. So the trend is sparking an inequity between those Venezuelans that got Yankee dollars and those Venezuelans that don't. Well, let me tell you, newsflash, It's the same in Hawthorne, where I'm from. It's been that way in little old Hawthorne, Florida, where I grew up, and it's still that way. The people that's got a bunch of Yankee dollars are doing better than the ones that don't. I mean, this is like a real big truth here, right?
I had to go to school to learn that.
Yeah. More money, more American money is good. It's good, man. It's good. It's amazing how how sorry we are, how worthless a nation we are, except for one thing: our money. They love it. The people talk about, do you speak Spanish? And I said, I've been in a lot of Spanish. First of all, I got a growing Hispanic audience, so I mean no disrespect. And I know enough Spanish to get me in trouble. But one thing I have always understood is if I got money, it all seems to work out, man. That's worldwide. Yankee dollars, man, they're still pretty good. The divide was cleared during a recent national blackout with no debit card machines, frightening, working, and few people carrying the vast quantities of bolivars needed to buy goods. Apparently, you need like a semi carrying them just to like buy a cupcake. The greenback became the primary means of payment. So let me just tell you, snowflake newsflash, socialism equals no smartphones. I mean, if you're into smartphones, you don't want to be socialist because they can't pay the bill. And you can say, but Obama's paid the bill here. Obama gave me a cell phone. Yeah, but he got that with Yankee dollars taxed from capitalist people. There's crazy MAGA hat wearing type people. The people that show up and work every day and pay their taxes. Unlike Michael Avenatti, the poster child for CNN and the Democratic Party, that don't even have any tax returns. The hardworking people that actually put these hats on, they're the backbone of this nation, and the reason you were able to get free cell phone, whether you deserved one or not. The supermarkets that open only, that's what I'm saying. Obama phone, they say, well, Obama gave us phones, yeah, but he gave it to them by taxing greedy capitalists. He gave it to them.
So your social phone.
Yeah, it's a social phone. That's why I say socialism equals no cell phones, trust me. The supermarkets that opened only accepted cash or dollars, and not all of them gave you change, said Luis Mendoza, a construction worker who is partly paid in dollars. He said if you had a $50 bill, you had to spend it all. Well, let me tell you, Mr. Mendoza, I feel for you. I'm right there with you. Because I have the same experience when I go to Outlet Mall with my wife. It don't matter what I got. We got to spend it all. So I can feel your pain, man. And my wife ain't no socialist, but she believes in that Outlet Mall.
Oh, yeah.
Believe that.
My wife knows exactly how much I have.
Yeah, she is. And let me tell you, between the two of us, we can culturally appropriate with the best of them. I mean, so if you got some fashion, she gets into the fashion, I'm into, obviously, the food. Cultural appropriation, I'm coming for you. Turn it around, Venezuela, so that, because I'm not eating a pet. But if you turn it around and get some of them, like, steaks that I've heard they had down there, I'm with you. I'll appropriate. I'll bring me some Yankee dollars in a New York second. I ain't going down there right now. The currency is flooding into Venezuela from overseas as rising numbers of migrants fleeing the country's deprivations. So you get deprivation. Socialism, no cell phones. Socialism, deprivation, Send money or remittances. Remember that word. We might make that the word of the day one day. Remittances to their remaining family members. Jackson D. Alvala, a Caracas security guard who is paid in Venezuela bolivars, is not one of them. So now, you know how they give you like spoiler alerts for movies, or they tell you that this is not appropriate for children and you need to, get them out of the room? I need to give one of those for anyone who believes in socialism right now. If you believe that socialism is the way to go, if you're a socialist Democrat and you believe that, de Blasio said, that centrists need not apply, if that's what you believe, I want to give you, can we play that little de Blasio clip while I give people the socialist time to leave the room?
By the way, when it comes to the 2020 Democratic nomination process, centrists need not apply.
Okay, so you were fair warned. So if you're socialist and still be there, I pity the fool. The differences between those who receive remittances and those, in other words, they're getting money from somewhere else, Yankee dollars, who don't, is widened by the minute and prices keep climbing. This is according to this security guard. He said, I can't even afford my children's meals. A 12-hour workday. Now, you snowflakes that are still with me, you socialists still with me, you really need to hear this. This is a vitally important sentence. He says, I can't even afford my children's meals. A 12-hour workday for me is worth 3 pounds of cheese. So I got a question. How much can you trade cheese for apples? Can you trade? Think about that. If you're going to get paid basically in cheese, it's going to be hard to get an iPhone or an iPad or the pods or whatever that y'all are wearing and thinking y'all all that in a bag of chips. So if you're out there and you believe in socialism and you like your apples, I don't think you can get a whole lot of apples with cheese, so you might want to rethink that stuff. But this remittances, I want to bring this up because this is a very important word. Everyone has a perception that this is one of the people speaking about this. Everyone has a perception that this is a government strategy, talking about Venezuela, to raise dollars, said senior financial sector executive who said Caracas doesn't directly benefit from remittances. In other words, the government. It's rather an escape valve that helps people survive. So people are being helped to survive on those capitalist dollars coming from America. America, man. Cuba, let me just tell you, Cuba wouldn't exist in its current form without Yankee dollars. The only thing that really kept people from overturning Castro was that he said one thing and did another, which is like classic communism, right? That's why little Ocasio-Cortez is going to be a great communist, because she's always saying, do what I say, don't even look at what I do, let alone try to do what I do. But Cuba, man, they relaxed their policy on Yankee dollars coming in, and that's the only thing kept their economy. And another thing, talk about them having the Mexicans pay for the wall. Trump, he's right about that in one sense. If we did, there's several strategies we could use to help to basically make Mexico pay for the wall. One would be to tax those remittances. It's basically it's the second largest economy, if not the largest. Some people debate it in Mexico with their oil, is the amount of money that Mexican people send back across the border. Some of it's legal, some of it not. But the total amount that goes back to Mexico, if we just put a tax on that, you could literally pay for the wall overnight. Latin America's let me check my time. I got a few more minutes. Latin America's deepest economic crisis on record has cut Venezuela's output by more than half and prompted an exodus of 3.4 million Venezuelans, more than 10% of the population in the past 3 years, according to the United Nations. So I guess you could look at that as optimistic. It's about population control. Think about it. I've talked about this, hadn't mentioned it much lately. But the left, of the environmentalists, the people that are all worried about cattle farts, they used to be all about population control. They used to really care about the population control in the United States of America. That is one reason they're so for abortion. Kill the baby, kill the baby. Yeah, but now they want to bring more people in. They want to bring more poor people in that are going to take more from the economy, going to degrade the environment, because think about this. You show me a country that has total environmental degradation, and I'll show you a very poor nation, because people don't naturally want to degrade their environment, but if they're really poor, sometimes it's the only choice they have. And I got to give you a quick FYI. Did you see where, this is totally separate, but I thought about it when it comes to kill the babies. Did you see where Kamala Harris was talking about gun control? And this is another thing I meant to point out at the top of the show. They're switching the topic now back to like gun control, because they know that collusion. Oh, we don't want to know collusion. We don't want to even talk about that. It's all about the guns and gun control. Kamala Harris said we desperately, and I'm paraphrasing it, need gun control to keep our babies from being killed. But last time I checked, the babies being killed is not by guns, but by making them comfortable before they cut their throat, man. I mean, it's crazy. So the last thing, and we'll close the show on this. Dollarization, which is what they call this, is the essence of transformation from an oil-dependent economy into a remittance economy. That doesn't sound very sustainable, Mr. Fortney said. It's a structural change leading to Darwin adaptation adaptation. So the people are adapting to what they have to. Desperate. I don't mean. So I got a radical idea, man. I got a radical idea. How about just no socialism? Period. Let's do away with socialism, because think about this, and this is an absolute truth. In every socialist economy, there is a capitalist black market. Always. Every socialist economy is actually supported by a black market capitalism. The Chinese know this, and they know that they wouldn't even be able to hold on to power without some elements of capitalism. That's why they don't crack down on this Yankee dollar thing, even in Venezuela, because they know that if they don't have this money, they're going down the tubes. So we celebrated yesterday. I'm optimistic. Think about it. We got optimism. Michael Avenatti is going to be meeting Bendover in the not too distant future. The world as we know it is not dead yet. We might actually survive because the glaciers have stopped melting, and Venezuela and the Yankee dollar is still king all over the world, in spite of the fact that we're the worst country ever that everyone wants to get to. But our dollars, our Yankee dollars, our capitalist system is still the best thing out there. So wake up, snowflakes, wake up everybody, and see that we got it real good right here in the USA, right here in this good old USA, and we need to work against the ignorance and apathy on a daily basis to save this country. And I need your help. I'm a fighter, as I've said. Not everybody can be a fighter. I know a lot of you out there are, but all of you can be supporters. So like what we're doing, go directly to John Martin Talks Facebook page, like it, share it as far and wide as you can, johnmartintalks.tv, and our YouTube channel, John Martin Talks. I hope above all else that you have a blessed day.